Welcome to the Inner Script podcast. I'm your host, Jenna, and in this episode, I sit down with Jody, who is a transformational life coach, a crystal Reiki master, and a yoga teacher. And she vulnerably shares her journey of healing not only from child sexual abuse, but from toxic relationships, from depression, and more. This story that you are about to hear is one of resilience, of transformation, and of hope. And today, Jody not only embodies her own healing, which you will get a chance to see and hear and feel, but she also guides others through her coaching practice to reclaim their power, to go through their own personal healing transformations, and to really create a life of freedom, of empowerment, of peace, of joy. And so I hope that you enjoy every minute of this episode. Let me know what you think.
I was a survivor of sexual abuse as a child, and later in life, domestic abuse, toxic relationships. And I bring up the sexual abuse because that's where all of this subconscious programming was started, and no one believed me. And I was told, oh, you just don't have to go to this person's house. So I would stay home, and that then started abandonment issues. And probably my FOMO. All my cousins and everything are over there. I want to go see them. So eventually I just would.
For you to even speak up, you were a kid.
Right.
For you to even speak up, I feel like that's very uncommon.
Yes.
So how brave this little girl was to speak up, and then you weren't heard, you weren't believed, and you were just told you don't have to go there anymore.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So, yeah. And so all of this programming, the abandonment, fear of missing out, and taught that I felt like, and I've only learned this like over the last 4 or 5 years, that's where my self-worth, my lack of self-worth comes from, because I was basically taught your body means nothing. And I was taught your words mean nothing, because I said them and nobody believed me, so subconsciously I was taught your words mean nothing, your body means nothing. And now I'm a teenager and I'm rebelling, and I'm starting to do drugs, starting to drink, stay out all night, being very promiscuous, and not knowing why, but now I do, because I was just trying to, that inner child just having that temper tantrum.
Yeah.
And nobody's paying any attention.
Probably kind of yelling out for help.
Exactly.
Probably, and you tell me, but it sounds like I went through it myself. I feel like we go through this like self-punishment. Like,
oh yeah.
Okay, well, if I'm not safe in my body, or if, my body has no worth,
exactly,
then I might as well take it into my own hands.
Yeah. Yeah. And as a teenager, I also tried to commit suicide a couple of times, and it was just like, I was just hurting and in so much pain, and not even really realizing. I mean, I knew I was hurting, but you don't really realize at that time how deeply it hurts and how painful it really is. So you're acting out, you're lashing out.
Yep.
Yeah.
At that time, if you could remember back to your teenage mind, do you feel like you knew what it was that you were angry at or acting out about, or was it just that you were finding things in those particular moments? I
think I knew what I was acting out about. I was mad. I was mad as hell at my parents, for, you're supposed to protect me. You're supposed to give me that safe space. And you didn't. And instead I was taught, just pretend it never happened. And that, was like, huh? Okay. And it was a lot to deal with.
Absolutely. And dealing with it on your own, it
sounds
like.
Yeah.
How do you think that was playing out then in your adult relationships?
Oh yeah. Of course it played out. Um, so then I had met my husband, and it was a very practical thing to do. And so we got married, and after a while, it probably, now looking back, it was a toxic relationship. And, not really realizing it in the beginning. So then we tried to have my son Clayton, or just trying to have a baby, and 7 years, and I had pelvic infections when I was younger, like kid, like 10, 11, 12 years old.
It's painful, isn't it?
Very painful. Yeah. And so scar tissue attaches to your fallopian tubes, and that was preventing me from having children. And I really think I got them from the abuse, and
I
that
agree.
affected that. So that brought all those things up again, all those feelings, and I don't know what to do with them. I don't know how to process them, but got through that, and luckily, thankfully, I have my son Clayton. And then his father and I wound up getting divorced. Again, just also going through that process of doing the in vitro and injecting yourself, and the ups and downs, oh, I'm pregnant. Oh, no, you're not. Oh, let's do it again. Oh, I hope, and it's just, and the miscarriages, and not allowing myself any time to grieve them, because back in the 90s, late 90s, it was like, oh, you had a miscarriage. Oh, okay. Like,
No one talked about it.
no.
I feel like I only
Right.
found out as an adult how many people in my family had miscarriages.
Yeah.
Like nobody
Right.
talked about
Yeah.
that.
And there's the shame from the abuse. There's the shame you feel from the miscarriage, because you can't talk about it. So that makes you feel like it's shameful. If I can't talk about it, there must be some shame involved, and that this is why I'm here, because how can I help others move past their shame when I'm holding on to my shame?
Well, your story is so empowering and so
Yeah.
inspirational. And we haven't even got to like the healing part
I
yet.
know, right? This is just the background.
Just the background.
But, I just want people to know that if you're feeling this shame, if you unfortunately have had a similar experience, let's talk.
Yes.
Let me help you.
Oh, I have chills. I feel like
Yeah.
crying right now.
Yeah. And you know me, I'm a crier,
Yeah,
and I'm
you're
doing
worse than
so
me.
good.
You're doing amazing. I'm
I
about to
think
tear.
because you have provided the safe space for me,
Well, thank
so
you.
that I
but
can
it's-
tell it, and I can let go of the shame and use my voice, and my words are meaning something right now.
Yes, they are. And they will continue to mean
Yes.
something. And you are a living testament to hope after.
Right.
Because there are so many other survivors that feel hopeless.
Right.
Or
Oh,
feel
yeah.
like,
And I did. Yeah.
yeah.
The attempts at suicide showed that I felt hopeless, yeah. That,
Absolutely.
how can I go on? I don't know how to process this.
And that's what's so I hate to use the word interesting about the subconscious mind, but I don't know what other words kind of interject there. But when things happen to us in our childhood, they're so confusing. Number one, we don't know how to label them. We don't know how to process them. And then when we don't have the support, we store it away for a later time to process. And we just keep building upon these wounds and anchoring them in deeper and deeper and deeper.
And I feel like when you do let it out, it comes out as anger.
Yeah, because it's a higher emotion than despair or hopelessness. It's easier to reach for anger than it is for joy. Joy is totally unreachable.
And that anger can sometimes just let it out, not in a healthy way sometimes, but being angry. Like I used to punch walls. I used to throw things, just trying to get it out, because you don't know. Like now I have these 2 golden retrievers that I love so much. They're the daughters I never had. But when they get so excited in that, I'm like, oh, I know you got such big feelings. And that's what it was. When you're a child, your feelings are so big. And when you're not taught how to express them or how to deal with them, it's very difficult.
Of
So
course.
later in life, hopefully you can quiet your mind, work on yourself, and hopefully learn how to deal with them and process them so that you can have a better life. Yeah.
And so going through all of the in vitro
Hmm.
treatments, take me through a little bit of like what did you face after healing from that? Because I can't even begin to think of all the things that you kind of have tackled.
At the time, I had a baby. So I was excited. I didn't think about everything I went through. It was just like, oh, okay. And then later in life, is really when I was like, okay, I got divorced, wound up in another toxic relationship, got out of that, and I started healing. So I have been on this journey for about maybe 15 years now. And what I did was I was like, I'm taking a break from men. I was like, because I was always that person that always had the boyfriend, always never alone,
Mhm.
that fear of abandonment, fear of being alone. So I always had to have somebody in my life. So this was the first time since I was like 15 that I didn't have someone in my life. And I was, I think, 39 or 40. And I was like, you know what? I'm taking a break. I went back to college at night and, I wanted to be a better mom for my son. And him and I started kayaking, we started hiking, and just that being out in nature really helped to ground me. And it just felt good. And I felt centered and I felt like a better person. And then I met a boy and got into another toxic relationship. And I remember one day just feeling stuck. Just, ah, how can I change this? What can I do? So I remembered when Clay was a baby, I used to do yoga. And I was like, that made me feel really good. I think I need to find a yoga place. And this is the thing too. I didn't want to just find a yoga class. I wanted to find like-minded people. I wanted a community. So I Googled and I looked and I was like, hmm. So I found myself at the Body Art Barn in Chester. And the very first class I take is by Michelle, who's the owner, who's very intense. And I did not know this going in, but it was just like, wow, that is what I needed.
Mhm.
Just to grab my attention, to grab hold of me. And she talked me into doing the teacher training, and I was just like, that was the best decision I ever made.
Can I ask you what made you
Mhm.
say yes?
Felt like I was being called to it. Like, just like this is almost like a higher self. My higher self was like, hey, psst, I think you should really do this. And I was like, but also I have problems with scarcity, money. Oh, never have enough, and being a single mom for so long, and all of that. And I was like, it's not cheap. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this for myself. And, we came up with a payment plan, and I was like, okay, thank you. And Michelle has helped me out so much with life lessons, good and bad, but I appreciate everything that she did for me, and eventually for my son too, because he wound up teaching aerial yoga there later.
How cool is
Yeah.
that? I had no idea.
Yeah. Yeah. He was struggling at a point in his life, and I was like, you need to do yoga. He went to a class and he said, Mom, it's really not for me. But what are those silks hanging from the ceiling? And I was like, oh, that's for aerial yoga. You want to do that? So that helped him heal through something he was going through at the time.
I think that's a really cool lesson for people, because sometimes I think you have like this, I don't know, this view of what yoga is or what it's
Right.
supposed to be. And so there's different types of yoga then for different types of personalities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. And he found one that, fit his personality, and he wound up then teaching there and for a few years and stuff. So yeah, it really helped his development as well. But as I was going through my teacher training, my dad, and I mean, classes started, I think it was September. and November, my dad got sick. So I had to go back to Buffalo, and it was December that I went there for about 6 weeks, as my dad passed on January 1st. And I call Michelle up and I'm like, I can't do this. I'm not even there. Like, I don't even have the headspace right now to do this. She was like, no, you're doing the yoga. She's like, trust me, stick with it. Get the Tibetan book of dying, and you're doing it. I was like, okay. So I got the book, and I know, like, the title of a Tibetan book of dying, you're reading to a dying person, can be a little morbid, but it helped me so much.
So you were reading it to your dad.
Yeah. I
as
would
he was
read
on
it
his
to him at
deathbed.
night. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What did
And
that do for you?
it really helped me because I learned how to help him transition into the next life. So it was like I wanted to keep everything peaceful. I wanted just pure love and joy in the house, and really help him to cross over. And I found it very comforting. It was a really good suggestion, really good book to read for him. And it helped me too to be centered and grounded, because, also helping my family, being there for them as well.
Yeah, you can't really prepare for something like that. I
No.
can only
Yeah.
imagine.
Yeah. He passed from Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, which is a prion that attaches to your brain and eats it. And it's like also a form of mad cow disease.
Okay.
So there's no cure, there's no treatment. You just wait,
Do you feel like you just had this kind of almost like a radical acceptance? Like when you purchased that book, I imagine you're like, you know what.
Right. Well, when I purchased it, I had no idea what to expect.
Okay.
Right. And then I started reading, and I didn't read it like front to cover. I went right to the part about dying. And that's, what I started to read to him. And I was just like, wow, this makes so much sense, to have a peaceful, calm, loving household for him to transition out of, and it helped me to be centered, for my family and stuff. Even though there were times my mom yelled at me to stop crying, but later on, I really feel as though, because I became his caretaker, and it really helped with that.
Wow,
Yeah.
I give you so much credit for that.
Yeah.
Were you there in those last moments?
Yes. Yeah.
What was that, if you don't mind me asking, like what has that done for you today? Because you've witnessed.
I mean, you can relate. My sister and I knew he was going to pass on New Year's Day because of some things financially. with like pension checks and stuff like that. If he had passed before that, my mom wouldn't have gotten to keep the check. And I
He
was
was
like,
holding
I'm
on.
like, he's going to make sure mom's taken care of. So
They do that.
yeah. Yeah. And we knew, and sure enough, so, I learned from that you can't wait. You can't wait for the 50th wedding anniversary like he wanted to, because it was their 49th in November. He said, for our 50th, we're going to do something big. So that lesson to me was, you know what? Don't wait for the milestones. Celebrate whenever you want, just say you and your husband want to go out and have a nice date night. Just do it. Don't wait till it's your anniversary or this or that, or your 70th birthday or anything like that. So,
Yeah.
those little life lessons. And my dad loved life, loved life. So I was like, you know what? I want to live my life for him, by being like a better person. And he always wanted to travel. So for his second passing anniversary, I'm not sure what you would call that, but we'll call it that for now. My sister and I went to Iceland for New Year's Eve because we were like, celebrate life, do this for dad.
And your
And
sister's
it was
also a
beautiful.
medium as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So what a gift that he gave you through his life and through his transition.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
Iceland. Whew.
Yeah. I've been there twice now.
So now he's living through you, traveling through you.
Yeah. I'll be going to Bali in March.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Taking my son to Ireland, Puerto Rico, just trying to give him those experiences because I know my dad would really want it to travel, but my mom doesn't like to travel. So, if I could, I know he's with me.
Of course he is.
So,
yes.
just doing that. So, yeah. And teaching my son too, like, hey, go see the world, go try things, go do things,
And you're living proof. I mean, I feel like there's so many people out there that we want our kid. Well, we want our kids to be better than us.
Of course. Yeah.
Right. But the only way to do that is to be better ourselves.
Exactly. Exactly.
So you started with the yoga.
Yes. I started with the yoga and then my dad had passed and then I fell into a little bit of a slump. I was in a toxic relationship, not feeling fulfilled, very depressed. So I was diagnosed with PTSD, anxiety, ADHD, put on prescription pills, and just felt like, and so I started taking all these medications, started to feel a little better, and it just still wasn't doing it. While on these pills, I tried to commit suicide about 3 years ago. And the next morning I had to teach yoga. I taught yoga feeling like complete hell. I wasn't supposed to be alive to teach yoga. That wasn't my plan. And it was New Year's Eve. So I was like, well, I could be with my dad and everything would be much better.
Oh, I just got chills. Do you feel like your dad was there that night though, intervening?
Especially on that night. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So when I woke up and I was like, I have to go teach yoga. Are you kidding me? I was like so sick. So just like, and even my students were like, are you okay? You look horrible. I'm okay. Yep. And I just still wasn't feeling supported in my relationship. He knew that I did that. And it was just like, well, that was stupid. Why'd you do that? I was like, okay, it's time to get back on this healing path. All right. So,
what was it though, if you don't mind me asking? What was it that made you know, like, this is the path? This is the only way? Because you mentioned, the medication route.
Right.
There's so many different routes that people, take.
Yeah.
And a lot of times doesn't get them where they think they're going to end up.
Yeah.
So what was it about this journey that you're now on that you knew this was the right one? Was it a feeling? Was it a thought? Like,
it was a feeling, a thought, message, just I'm leaning more into my intuition. Of course, being a Pisces and Pisces rising, my intuition is like, but I never really leaned into it because I was afraid. And also because my sister's a medium, I didn't want to step on toes, again, feeling
You
as
didn't want
though,
to shine.
why is my word mean anything?
Yeah.
Why is my worth anything?
But you
So
also
it
have to
was
trust
still
your body in order
right,
to lean into it.
right.
And you were conditioned not to.
Which had I wouldn't have been in so many toxic relationships. But again, feeling as though I'm not worthy. This is what I deserve subconsciously, So after that, I got back on the yoga path and I started doing macrame. I was like, I'm going to start doing macrame and just being that creative, really, I felt so good. I felt like it was an out of body experience when I did it, and it was like, and I can't remember if it was you or Sid that told me my Aunt Irma is with me when I'm doing it. And
That
I
must
was
have been
like,
her.
yeah, I knew somebody was there, but I wasn't sure. It was my Aunt Irma and my Aunt Georgianne. And it was just like such a great experience and just a way for me to settle my ADHD brain, doing the knots and just focusing on it. And I would step back after I finished a project and be like, wow, I did that because it was such an out of body experience. And then I started vending at psychic fairs.
That's where I
And
met
that's,
you.
yeah.
And my daughter was drawn to you.
Yeah. She's so awesome. Such a great guitar player. She's still
Thank
playing.
you. Yes.
Good. Yeah. And again, finding more like-minded people. And then through that, I dove a little bit deeper and I had taken a sound bath a few years ago and oh yeah, I remember that felt good. Then I was like, oh, there's this sound bath and breath work coming up. And it was at Sunstone Sanctuary in Chester, which is attached to the Barty Out Barn. Here we are again. And it was with Ananda Pretty and Christina Coleman. So they were doing breath work and sound bath. And that changed my life. That moment right there. As soon as I saw Christina, her aura around her was just so like pure white, beautiful. And I was so drawn to her and she was so drawn to me. And she's a life coach and Ananda did the breath work and sound bath portion. And I was like, you hear life coach. What's a life coach? I thought, oh, it's something like rich people do. So I was like, oh, all right, whatever. And then I met Christina and I'm like, oh, life coach. Oh, I want to know more about that. And we connected after the workshop and I had given her a hug and I was crying and I had told her, this was only a few months ago that I had tried to commit suicide. And she was just like, no, you're supposed to be here for a reason. The breath work, the sound. I mean, I never did breath work before. I meditated, but doing this breath work was just, I was in another dimension. So I went home and previously, let me back up just a tad. I had a North Node reading with Sid, and my North Node was to be a teacher. And I'm like, I guess teach yoga, right? And I was teaching yoga and I do love teaching yoga, but I knew it wasn't it. That wasn't it. There was something else. So now I go to this sound work, breath healing. I think I just reversed that, didn't I? Sound bath, breath work.
It, yeah.
And Christina also during this time was going around doing Reiki and everything. And I had already taken the Reiki with you and gotten certified. So I was all into that. And then I went home and I sat with that even more. So I sat and I meditated and received this message from Spirit. This is what you're supposed to do. This is how you help people. You will teach them how to transform their lives. And I was like, it was like a total light bulb moment. So talked to Christina some more, did some more breath work with Ananda, did some sound baths. Like now that is my jam. I'm just like all about that. So I went and took courses on health and life coaching. It took me a year to do my courses and everything and training and development in that. And I've even done my own sound baths now since then and my own workshops at Sunstone Sanctuary on menopause and perimenopause and just creating that safe space for women.
To age gracefully.
Yes.
Inside and out.
Yes. Yeah. And I do though also have men clients, but just I was like, okay, I really wanted to do a women's workshop and was like, what do I do this about? You're going through and all of a sudden, and it just hits you out of nowhere. And for me, it's voices. So I hear, who are we now? And I'm like, yeah, who are we now? Now that our kids are grown, our body is going through all of these changes. I mean, so much. And my sister, she teases me, oh, everything's menopause. It is. It really is.
Well, it's hormonal. It's our hormones. Our thoughts affect our hormones. I mean, we can talk about cortisol. That's like, the nice one that's like, people know about cortisol and stress, but everything else is affecting all of your hormones too.
When I started going through perimenopause, I felt like I was going crazy, like legit crazy.
I've been there
just right
with pregnancy.
Right. Yeah. Cause you're being forgetful. You're like, for me, my clothes get very itchy. I'll change sometimes like 3-4 times a day. Oh, this doesn't feel right. And I go put a different shirt on. It's just that texture thing that just like,
oh, no, I'm going through that. Maybe I am a little perimenopausal.
It starts early.
I like cotton and I like linen lately.
And here I'm sitting in cotton and linen.
Now you're answering my question. Yes. I didn't even realize I had.
Yeah. Ringing in the ears, which I always was like, I'd stop. Okay. What message do I need to receive right now? When I hear ringing, that's what I think. Then I'm like, oh, wait, is it the menopause? I don't know.
I choose to believe it's spirit.
Right. Oh, I'm totally going with that.
What's this message? Right? I'm ready to receive it.
Yeah. Yeah. So leaning into that and discovering, all of those pre-programmed things, that I had mentioned, like the abandonment and this. So when I can put a name to something, I feel better and then I can deal with it.
Yeah. Well, you have to own it first. You have to acknowledge that there's whatever it is before you can move on and begin to heal.
Right. And it's not just the hot flashes and stuff, although they're awful, and the night sweats, but the forgetfulness, and all of that. And your ADHD symptoms spike when your estrogen lowers. That's where I felt like I was going crazy because I'm like, squirrel, and doing 10 different things and feeling overwhelmed and just like, and I'm like, oh, wait a second. That's my ADHD. Take a deep breath, and then I'll prioritize what I need to do instead of doing 5 things at once, because you walk into a room and this needs to be full. Oh, but I was on my way to go do the laundry, but then I stopped and did and I got to make a doctor's appointment. Oh, and now you're doing 5 things at once. You've got 10 tabs open and you're like, so I've like, stop, breathe. And I'm like, okay, what needs to be done first? And just breaking it down like that. And this is like what I help my clients do, recognize these different things, where to find your power, how to take your power back. Christina has been talking lately on social media, and it's been so resonating with me because as I had mentioned before, I used to punch walls, throw things. My anger was, but now realizing when I'm triggered like that, stop. What's making me angry? It's like almost like, hey, wait a second. What's causing this? And it's like, oh, it can be powerful. It doesn't have to be a negative thing to be angry.
Absolutely. I call that your emotions are just feedback.
Right.
I call it feedback.
Yeah. But the thing is to be still enough and present enough to take that step back, because so much of my life, I knew it, but I'm in a hurry, or I just let it get the best of me, and now I'm blowing up screaming at someone, and it's really, no, you crossed a boundary, and that's what upset me. You disrespected me, and that's what upset me. So I don't have to scream about it. I can look at it, and if the person's open enough, we can discuss it. If not, we can move on, but just helping in those ways. Cause I feel like too, now that we have a little bit of time and we're not, worrying about high school, college, starting a family, that we can sit back and be like, oh, wait a second. You know what? I've done this my whole life, but I don't really like that. So how can I change that? Now, through my experience, through my wisdom, through my training, I want to help other people, and
And you
that's
have the experience, the life experience,
right.
and the skills and the
Mhm.
results
Right.
that actually work.
Yes.
So, how long do you feel like it takes somebody that maybe has gone through a similar experience as you have
Mhm.
to, come out on the other side of the tunnel?
Well, I feel like everybody's journey is different. It's taken me about 15 years, but about 8 where I really dove into it, and I feel like really over the last 3 is where I've had the most breakthrough. And it's through the, you know, cutting down on the drinking, cutting down on, certain toxic things, or eliminating them, and recognize not living in survivor mode anymore. Knowing, there's sometimes I lay in bed at night and I have a tendency to clench my jaws and, do this with my hands. I think that's an ADHD thing I read or something, the clenching like that. I have to remind myself, relax, you're safe, you're okay, and just breathe. And, just that constant reminder, because I spent so many years, I'm not going to say how many, but I spent so many years being in that survivor mode that that's familiar. So now you have to allow yourself time to get familiar with these new patterns, So if you have an outburst and you're trying not to, give yourself grace. Allow yourself that space to, okay, that happened, but I can do better. I know better now, and my son really helped me a lot with my faith. And I love that about him. We always went to church, I was raised Catholic, therefore he was raised Catholic, and he started to go to a Christian church. And he didn't tell me this until like a month later or so, but he got baptized again. And I was just like, I think that's great. Like, why wouldn't you tell me, But I don't know. I think like we feel as though some things we're ashamed of, and we keep that shame. And it's like, no, you don't need to be ashamed of these things. You don't, especially faith, And I kept asking him, can I go to church with you? Can I go to church with you? And he's like, no, no. And I was like, all right, I'll let that be his thing and I'll give him some space. And then one time I asked him, it was Easter, can I go to church with you? And he was like, okay, fine. I was like, yeah. So we went to church, and he goes to, it's now Echo Grace, and it's their one location in Washingtonville.
Oh my gosh. I've heard really good things about that place. I've never,
Yeah.
is there a Pastor Jared in there?
Yes.
Okay. My
Yep.
friend told me if I'm ever going to go into a church, that's the one I should go into.
Yeah. It was just from the minute I walked through those doors, it was just like, it was like when I walked through the body art barn, you just felt like home, and then they're singing and dancing and playing instruments up on stage. I was like, this is so cool, so different than the Catholic Church, and
I heard it's very positive. He
very
talks about all
positive.
positive things.
Yeah. And so little signs, right? I'm in Vegas to see Dead and Company at the Sphere, and we go to Goodwill, and I find this T-shirt that says, "It's okay to not be okay." And I don't know if they call them masses, every service, at Grace, they start off, Pastor Jim will come out and say, if you came and you're not okay, it's okay. We just hope that you don't stay not okay. So I had found this shirt in Vegas and got it. And then I decided to get baptized and I wore the shirt. People were like, where'd you get that shirt? Goodwill. Like, all these signs just pointing that, yes, you're on the right path. You're in the right direction. And it was funny because I was always asking God, how can I be a better mother? Please show me, please guide me so I can better guide my son. And then my son says, yes, you can go to church. And I came home that night and I'm praying and I'm like, this is how. Thank you so much. This is how I can be a better mother, stepping into my faith more. This means a lot to my son too. So now we have that to bond over.
I love that so much.
Yeah. And he came to my baptism and was very supportive.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, I love
He's a great
that.
kid.
And you still recognize, I love that church. I've never been there, but I love everything I've heard about it because it doesn't discredit, like you're still acknowledging spirit. You're still,
right.
You feel your dad with you, you feel your Aunt Irma with you.
Right.
And yet you can have this beautiful relationship with
right.
God.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, some parts of the Bible that aren't in there because, let's remember a man put this Bible together. But
true story.
There were women who were healers and light workers and spirit guides. So that to me is all involved in the church and Christianity.
But if you could find a church like that,
right,
where it and I'm only saying this because I know from my good friend, like how pure that pastor is and what he teaches them. Like, I think she did this relationship course that they were doing.
Oh, yes.
Him. And I've heard.
Is she in the youth group on Wednesday nights? Okay. Oh, okay.
She moved. She said no matter where they go, she even has a friend in North Carolina and they're like, yeah, we go to church, but it's not the same. Like there's no other Pastor Jared on this planet.
Yeah.
I've moved into a season where I realize, I don't have to hold on to resentment towards, because there are some churches that really are genuine and pure.
Right.
And I've even heard my mentor as a young kid going to her church and saying that she used to poke her mom, like, what's that big green light around him? Because she could see his aura and it was beautiful and green and he was a healer. And so that's how just my own interpretation of that church. I feel like that pastor is a healer.
Oh, definitely. Definitely feel that. Yeah. He's helped heal me and my son. So many people I know he has helped. Yeah. And Clay started going to the youth group. It goes to like you're 27. So he's good. Yeah. Cool. Right. Cause I feel funny saying a youth group and he's 25, but they meet every Wednesday night and he goes and he's made friends through that. And it's just like, and he had stopped going to this youth group. And then when I was talking to Pastor Jim's wife, Naomi, about my baptism, she asked if he went. And I said, well, he used to, but he doesn't anymore. Her son runs it. She says, I'm going to have him reach out to him.
I'm sorry, I keep calling him Jared. His name's Jim.
Oh, no, there is a Jared and there's Jim. Okay. Yes. Yes. They're both great. But yeah, everyone's like, Jared, they're both very nice looking men. But Jared, all the women are like, ooh. But yeah, so my son started going back to the group and has made friends. And like, I see a huge difference in him.
So as far as the people that you help and your life coaching practice, in case there is anybody who is interested in reaching out to you and connecting with you, is there a place that they could find you?
They can find me on Instagram, Jody Rost, Rost, or warrior_5.
Okay, I'll link all of that.
Okay. And with having the certification in Reiki, yoga, health and life coaching, I figured, why keep them all separate? So I was like, okay, and I'm going to help you find your true north. So it's True North Holistic Wellness.
What does that mean? Finding your true north?
Being your authentic self. To me, that's what it means. Like if you're feeling stuck, if you're not feeling in alignment and you just don't know how to find it, like I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you do that. And so I can offer Reiki so that we can clear your energy centers, cut any cords that may be holding you back so that then you can transform. Because how are you going to do it if you're holding on to all that stuff?
Yeah.
And that's why, like I talked about, certain topics I talked about today to release that shame so that I can furthermore step into my true self, because you can't, when you're holding on shame, help someone else release shame.
No, we can feel that when someone's not
Yeah.
being authentic.
I was going to say that's not being authentic.
Yeah.
Right. So, and then we can incorporate yoga. We can incorporate sound baths, sound healing, breath work. One of my clients, him and I do a guided meditation at the end of every session. Him and I meet virtually, but we also go over yoga and stuff like that. I have him do breath work every morning, and what a difference he said that makes, but I've worked with women with ADHD, again, with sexual trauma or domestic abuse, eating disorders, so anything, where you're just feeling, I could really use some work with this.
And it's hard for us to see in ourselves.
Right.
I mean, you've done a lot of this work on your own, but you've had people come in and help guide you. But I feel like when it comes to healing and you don't have that guidance, like everyone needs a coach. Even coaches need coaches.
Right.
But it's harder for us to see those things. Maybe we don't even know, like, where the hell is my true north? Like, I don't even know where to begin looking.
Right. Yeah.
So I do feel like there is a huge benefit to working with the modalities that you're mentioning, with working with a life coach. And it sounds to me like you're kind of also looking at the whole.
Exactly. Not just one little thing, because I found that in myself. It wasn't just one. Oh no, it was all of this and then that and something over there too, so just like bringing that all in and looking at all that, because like I had hurt my ankle and I was limping around. And even though it was my ankle that was the problem, my knee was out of alignment because of that. And then my hip and my sciatic. So you may think it's one thing and it's like, nope, just dive a little bit deeper, just go a little bit deeper and really find the root of it. And then that's when we can really start healing and dealing with it.
I love that you said that, because I feel like that's so realistic.
Right. Yeah.
And sometimes we think, we could do this one thing and fix everything, but it's so true.
Yeah.
Everything
like, I'll just take a shot and lose weight.
Yeah.
No, put the work into it.
It feels better, number one, but like you said, you're getting to the root and you're not just overcompensating with another area of life or body part or whatever it may be.
Right.
Well, I have to thank you so much for
being
so vulnerable and opening up and sharing where you've come from. I have to ask you just one final closing question. And that is, because everything that you talked about today is us being able to see this kind of transformation of your inner script, transforming over the years. Is there anything that you can share with the listeners? Like if you had one bit of advice, something that they could tell themselves to hopefully adopt into their own inner script.
Yes.
What would that be?
I used to think I'm not worthy. Why aren't you worthy? You're a child of God. God made you in his likeness. So therefore, you're doing a disservice to God when you're not living your true self.
So if you haven't already clicked on all these links that I'm going to be putting below, please go ahead and connect with Jody, follow her work, follow her journey and everything that she provides. And we'll see you soon.
Thank you.